Caviar. It's long been a symbol of luxury and indulgence, yet for most of us, it's shrouded in mystery. But thanks to innovation, all that is changing, making the world of caviar more accessible than ever, with prices that are a lot easier to swallow. In this special edition, Alexander the Guest, you'll learn how to eat it, how to serve it, and how to talk about it. So stick around because this is everything you need to know about caviar. Before we get ahead of ourselves, let's get clear on what caviar is, because if you think it's fish eggs, you're only partially correct. Marine animals like shrimp, squid, lobster, and fish lay eggs, lots and lots of eggs. These eggs are called roe. Now, of all the roe in the sea, the most prized is the roe of the fish, especially in Japanese cuisine. They use a ton of it, actually more like 70,000 tons per year. They use roe from salmon, pollock, flying fish, capelin, and herring mostly. But when it comes to roe, there is one big daddy of them all: the sturgeon. It's the only roe used to make caviar. Why? Because no other roe is quite like it. Caviar is unique in terms of flavor and texture. Because it's high in fat, it is rich and buttery. Salt is added, so of course caviar is salty, and there are oceanic hints to give it a fresh mineral flavor. But ironically, there isn't much of a fishy taste at all. And what might really surprise you is that caviar, just like us, can be a bit nutty. Now, take all this rich, buttery, salty, fresh, nutty, non-fishy flavor and imagine it compressed into tiny balls. Kinda like the pearls in bubble tea, except caviar melts and pops effortlessly between your tongue and the roof of your mouth, releasing a complex set of flavors like nothing else on Earth. And now that you know your roe, let's swan dive into the history. The Persians on the Caspian Sea were the first to enjoy caviar, and thus they got to name it. Caviar comes from the Persian word cavyar, which means cake of strength, because they believed it had medicinal powers. The Chinese also had a hand in shaping the caviar of today, as the salting process originated there. Although we don't know exactly when caviar showed up on the scene, we do know that it can be traced back to the toga days of Aristotle. And for dozens of centuries, it was an affordable dish for the masses, so much so that many considered it peasant food. Then, in the 12th century, things took a turn. The Caspian Sea began to run out of sturgeon, and savvy caviar dealers smelled opportunity. With supplies dwindling, they jacked up the prices, and the once common man's caviar became a delicacy only the rich could afford. These days, nearly all of the world's caviar comes from sturgeon raised in commercial fish farms around the world. Believe it or not, the biggest producer of both sturgeon and caviar is China. But despite the accessibility of roe, the price of caviar remains high. Why are the prices so high? Is it just a money grab? Perhaps. But there are three main arguments caviar companies use to justify their prices. 1, time to sex the fish. Okay, that came out weird. Let me try that again. The time it takes to determine the sex of the fish. Let's just say for fun that you, yes you, want to get into the caviar game. You buy some pools, you get a bunch of baby sturgeon and start feeding them, and they start growing. You get excited. You're going to be a millionaire. You start looking at Bugattis online, but not so fast. Only the females have roe, and you won't be able to tell the males from the females for at least 2 years, maybe 3. So there's that. Then there's reason number 2, time to maturity. So 3 years go by and your girls are swimming around looking pretty, nice work, but you've still got to wait for them to mature so you can get your hands on that sweet, sweet roe. I hope you're sitting down because that's going to take 5 to 15 more years. I'm sorry. The third defense of caviar producers is processing. Let's say you've stuck it out. You've sexed the fish, kept them in pristine conditions, and now you have mature females full of roe. You need to get it out. Guess what? It's all done by hand, by highly skilled, aka highly paid, workers. These roe experts painstakingly wash and separate the roe before salting it. Then they rinse the salt and carefully dry the roe. But it's still not ready. The roe is then graded and aged for weeks to months to sometimes years. Now, at least a decade later, you finally have caviar. Almost there. You just need to ensure super strict quality control as you package, store, and transport that extremely delicate caviar between 28 and 34 degrees, 0 and minus 2 degrees Celsius, until it gets to the customer. Finally, go pick out that Bugatti. You may have heard that caviar is going through a kind of renaissance, but we just learned why caviar is so expensive. How can it be going through a renaissance? 2 reasons. First is health. Caviar is a superfood, full of vitamins, minerals, and healthy fats. It's high in protein, omega-3, and nutrients. Caviar is heart healthy, boosts your immune system, and promotes healthy skin and healthy brains. The second is a food trend called high-low snacks. This is where you take a luxury food and pair it with something super basic. For example, lobster grilled cheese, Wagyu sliders, or caviar and potato chips. This is music to the ears of people in the caviar industry, who want nothing more than to give a younger audience a seat at the table, with caviar selected and priced just for them. Look closer at many of these caviar and chip kits, and you'll find the caviar inside is white sturgeon caviar or smoked trout roe, exponentially cheaper than the caviar used at Michelin star restaurants. But it's great news if you're a newbie and you're curious about caviar, because it turns out the cheaper white sturgeon caviar might even taste just as good as the expensive stuff. In his video, Is Caviar a Scam?, Ethan Schlabowski puts white sturgeon caviar head-to-head against the much pricier Osetra, and guess what? He can't tell the difference.
1 in 3 are the same and 2 is different.
So now we know that not all caviar is created equal. There is a wide range of sturgeon species, and many more hybrid sturgeon crossbred for better roe. Each one has its own unique characteristics from flavor, size, color, and level of pop. And the prices change based on availability. Here's what you might expect to pay at a shop in the US. From $13 all the way up to $990 for an ounce. Translated to European, that's 12 to 912 euro for 28 grams. With the highest price going to the most exclusive type of caviar, almas, which only comes from Iranian albino huso sturgeon. So at this point, you've probably passed on the idea of opening a fish farm, but you might be leaning towards giving caviar a try and finding out what all the fuss is about. It's time to throw a little caviar party. Before the party gets going, there is one fun thing you should do with your guests first: the caviar bump. This is where you try just the caviar on its own. Setting up for a caviar bump is easy. First, make a fist. Scoop 10 to 20 balls of caviar onto the fleshy part of your hand behind your thumb and index finger. Then, in one go, eat them off. According to caviar aficionados, this is the best way to try the first bite of caviar in order to appreciate the subtle nuances in flavor without anything else getting in the way. And it's kind of cool. A caviar bump is like a Cheers, but with food. Regardless of what you do, keep your caviar chilled until you are just about ready to serve it. Once the tin is open, you have 3 days to consume it. And one more weird rule: don't use a metal spoon in your caviar. The caviar is said to react with metal and give off a weird taste. And you look like a total noob. For drinks, you could go traditional with champagne or vodka, but these days it's common to see a fruity white wine such as a Chenin Blanc. Now you have everything you need to know about caviar. You can eat it, serve it, and say a thing or two about it. Whether you get yours in a Michelin 3-star restaurant or in a kit with some chips, remember that you are eating one of the most precious foods in the world. The only question is, when are you going to have some caviar?